Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and before we get into today's video, well, I'm just going to remind you the 3 books that are on sale. Drink tea and read the paper. If you're a green belt and a black belt and you want simple instruction on how to apply your skill, design of experiments for 21st century engineers, and finally, a statistical process control for small batch production. They are all available from lulu.com and the links are in the video below. Welcome to Complexity Made Simple. My name is Paul Allen, and the subject of today's video, well, we're going to take a look at the difference between summary statistics and inferential statistics. I'm also going to call summary statistics observed statistics, because that's typically how you deal with the numbers. It's what you're observing in your data sets, and how important it is to drop the observed number and understand inferential statistics, because this is where statistics goes completely wrong for most people. Most people believe that all I have to do, I'm going to use statistics, it's not difficult, it's not clever, all I have to do is collect some data, look at the numbers, it's telling me something, and everything will be right with the world. That is where so many mistakes are made. So let's take a look at this. We are going to compare observed stats versus inferential, drawing a deeper conclusion from the data that's in front of you. Observed versus inferential. Now, as I say, the way this is going to show up in most manufacturing companies is the idea of taking a sample. Often we're taking a sample right at the beginning of a new product. So what we'll often do is someone will take a sample, they'll get, I don't know, maybe 20 data points. They'll take a look, and one of the things that they will do, they might compare it to the tolerance. They might work out the mean. In other words, what am I observing from my 20 data points? And what's the defect rate? What am I observing from my 20 data points? And they say, well, okay, what I'm observing is that all 20 data points are defect free. Therefore, what's my conclusion when I release this product out in production and I produce 100,000 that I'm going to need to produce for the life cycle of this product? Well, of course, what they conclude is that they're going to be defect free. You're using the observed results in order to conclude what's going to happen, in order to conclude how you're doing. If you do this, you are going to make some of the biggest mistakes ever. Because if we look at it from an inferential point of view, we're going to see things that the observed data is not seeing. So let's turn this thing around and look at it from the point of view of a different pattern. Look at it from the point of view of a distribution rather than individual data points, and did they pass and fail. Now, of course, in order to get this distribution, we need some summary stats. We're going to need the mean, and we're going to need the spread, the standard deviation. If we work those two out, it'll work out this distribution for us. We're assuming, by the way, that when we plot a histogram of this data set, some normality is appearing in the data as well. So the pattern is there. We're not making the pattern up. But once we understand that a pattern is present, what we're going to start to understand, of course, is that if we've only taken a sample of 20 data points, well, if that's the shape up there, where are the 20 data points likely to have come from? Well, they're likely to have come from the middle. So if we let's put tolerances in here, they come from the middle. They're all inside the tolerance, they're all defect free. But look, there's more data in the middle. They're bound to come from the middle. I've only taken 20. I've taken 20 out of maybe 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 that I might be making in the next year. If I only take 20, where are they going to come from? Well, they're going to come from the middle. So what we need to do, we need to infer how extreme could the results get? How much variability could the results produce if I'd have let this process produce 1,000 or 5,000? What would I have seen? And this, of course, is where inferential statistics comes in. Because once you understand the pattern, and you have the pattern drawn, you have it sized up in a way by having the mean and the standard deviation. You've quantified the pattern. You've quantified what's going to happen. And what we're able to do is we're able to calculate how much data do we expect to appear in the tails. In other words, what's the defect rate going to be long term? So you've taken 20 data points, they're all defect free, and now you're about to say, release the product, it's going to run brilliantly. You are about to make the biggest mistake ever, and you're about to cost your company thousands and thousands of pounds. But if you use inferential statistics, something that you were probably taught in your degree, but you brushed it off and thought you didn't need this stuff, here we go. Now we're going to be able to say, even though the sample was defect free, we are going to make a prediction that we expect 2% in that tail and 2% in that tail. We're going to have a 4% defect rate if we decide to switch this process on. Okay, now think about it, 20 data points. What's the chance that I'm going to pick up a defect if I've only got a 4% defect rate? What's the chance that I'm going to pick up a defect in those 20 data points? It's going to be a pretty lucky day at the office. But if I take the statistics, the mean and the standard deviation, and I assume that there is a pattern present because I'm beginning to see it from the histogram, then I can draw a much deeper conclusion. I can predict the long-term defect rate. I can draw a much deeper inference. And this is the power of real statistical analysis. Drawing proper inferences from what you see. By the way, making sure that you get proper sample sizes as well would also be part of inferential statistics. But because in order to get this prediction right, in order to get this estimate right, quite honestly, a sample size of 20 is terrible. You should be taking, if you're measuring something, a sample size of 30 to 50. And at all times you should be trying to measure things, not just trying to say pass or fail. So the sample size is not great. And if we understood inferential statistics, we'd know that in order to get a good estimate of what's going to happen long term, we need a good sample size. Don't forget, this is cheap here. This, at this point, this pilot run. You want to do a pilot run. How many pieces do you want? 30 to 50. That's cheap because you are about to make 100,000 and you are potentially going to make piles and piles of defects. Don't you want to just get a little bit of data to make sure you don't make that mistake? And that's what inferential statistics are for. So, you know, the mean and the standard deviation, maybe you were taught it in a class at school, maybe you were taught it in a class at college or university, and you didn't think it was any use at all apart from passing your exams. That's not true. you can get much deeper understanding of your data sets, much deeper understanding of your processes. You can predict your long-term defect rates from the first 30 data points if you use inferential statistics. Use the mean, the standard deviation, and of course what this really is, it crops up in CPK calculations. So CPK calculations are using inferential statistics. Use inferential statistics and you will make better business decisions, and you will make piles and piles of cash.